Today's question is, why do the Himalayan masters stay in the Himalayas by themselves? Why don't they come to the cities and enjoy the noise pollution and other pollution and different kinds of emotions? There is the truth as you might have read in the books. And then there is a truth which is the real truth. I'm sorry to break it to you, but my personal experience and the experience of countless seekers who have been to the Himalayas is not what you find in some of the most famous books, where the impression is created that there are yogis hiding in the Himalayas. Now, that's not to say that such yogis don't exist. Maybe such yogis don't exist, the ones written in the books. But there are yogis who only live in the Himalayas. And there are many reasons for that. I have often said that when I was in the Himalayas, I never missed my earlier life. I never missed the comforts. But when I came back from the Himalayas, very frequently my mind drifts away into the Himalayan valleys and mountains. The foremost reason is that the Himalayas carry an enormous spiritual energy. So living, so replete with transcendental wisdom that just flows from the mountains in the Himalayas. So I obviously did not grow up in the Himalayas. So I may have some bias towards the Himalayas because, after all, I grew up in this country. But having seen the French Alps and the Swiss Alps and the mountains of New Zealand and even California, there is no comparison. So after you taste the bliss that flows from the Himalayas, everything else appears quite insignificant and listless. After all, why would you want to live in the world? Why do we live in the world? We feel we have some duties, some responsibilities, we have some unfinished business. And it doesn't matter how beautiful a relationship is, as long as you have a relationship, at times it's going to be very inconvenient. So when you're out there in the world, you are a brother, you are a sister, you are a mother, father, husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, guru, disciple, employer, employee. It doesn't matter what relationship you find yourself in, there are going to be some difficulties along the way. And if you have no duty per se, no responsibility, and if you can live in solitude, which is not easy, not everybody is designed to embrace the rigors of solitude. In the beginning, it's always very depressing. So if somebody can find their bliss in solitude, such a person has no meaning in the world. So only two kinds of yogis would come back, in my humble opinion. First are those who still have some unfulfilled desires. Maybe they went to the Himalayas for just a retreat, which could have lasted a few years. They went to the Himalayas to experiment, and then they felt fulfilled and they came back. or they come back. And the second kind are those who find a way to communicate that bliss, or at least transmit that bliss to others who don't have the same luxury, to other seekers. Because when you are blessed with something, anything, it is but your duty to somehow have others also partake of that bliss that flows in your consciousness or flows through your consciousness. If you decide anything otherwise, that would perhaps be a little too selfish. But then again, not all yogis have to give discourses. Not all yogis have to be mingling with the world out there. I think I shared this story with you earlier as well. The great Tibetan yogi, Milarepa. And Repa was a title that they used to give in Tibet to somebody who could just live in one cotton robe throughout the year. So Milarepa, he went through a devastating childhood. So his father, he had a sister and a mother and a father. And his father died early, and his uncles really, took over their property, completely usurped it. And they really ill-treated them. Eventually they were kicked out of the home. And Milarepa's mother said to Milarepa, I want you to take revenge. I want you to learn black magic. At that time, the predominant religion in Tibet was Bon. So Milarepa said, okay, I will learn black magic and I will take revenge. As the legend goes, he learns black magic and he sends hailstorm and thunderstorms and rainstorms and destroys the crop and really brings the house down, literally. So he takes the revenge, but eventually he realizes that this is not the way to peace. Because when he took the revenge, he thought that I attained everything, I achieved everything that my mother asked of me. I really annihilated my uncles. But am I any happier? And that's the thing about revenge. You take it, there is a moment of feeling of triumph. But after that, it just gets to you. And he asked himself, am I any happier? The answer was no. So he ended up with Marpa, his master. And Marpa really put him through rigorous training, which was anything but training. In fact, it was torture. He would tell him to build a house on the top of a mountain where Milarepa would take giant stones, boulders up there. He would build a house which would take him anywhere between 1 to 2 years. And then Marpa would say, this is not good enough, demolish it. Build it again. And eventually Marpa gave him the instructions after 12 years of very rigorous, as I said, torture. Eventually, Milarepa started meditating in a cave. And he only drank what was written in the book, a nettle soup, which was made from some weed. It wasn't the smoking weed, it was the different kind. So much so that there was a green tinge on his body from just drinking that. And over the passage of time, his disciples started, people started finding out about him that there was a Siddha, an accomplished being, who only lived in that little cave of his. That he would not step out of his den, would not mingle with the people of the village. One day, Milarepa's sister found out about her brother. So she goes there with one of her friends. So she cries, seeing her brother in that state. And she says, "Why are you doing this to yourself? There are other monks we have seen in the village. They speak with people, they speak nice words, they evoke beautiful emotions in people's hearts. They appear quite wise. Why can't you do the same? Why can't you help the society?" Milarepa said, "That is their way, not Milarepa's. I do my work from this cave." And there was not a thread on Milarepa's body at that time. He was stark naked. So his sister went away, and then the next time she saw him again, she got a jumper, hand woven. And Milarepa cut it into different pieces and covered his fingertips and toes with that. She said, "That's an absurd way of putting on some clothes. This was to hide your body. This was to hide your private parts." And Milarepa said, "This is your conditioning. Are you ashamed of yourself? When did this body awareness arise in you? This is social conditioning. I don't buy into it. I don't step out in the world. I just sit here, and this is how I help people." So Milarepa was the kind of yogi who helped just by being there. So much so that even after so many hundreds of years, we are recounting his stories. Think about that. And there are 100,000 songs of Milarepa, beautifully written, on enlightenment, awakening, and meditation, and Mahamudra, and so on.